Greta Gerwig has been very vocal how much she hates Friedrich's character. I don't know what her problem is, but there is one thing that annoys me to no end. In every one of her interviews, Gerwig argues that Friedrich forces Jo to use the word Tau, and I can't even fathom how absurd that is. When you study German, one of the first things that you learn is that there are two ways to address a person. There is du, which is what you use when you are with someone you are very close to, and then there is sie, that you use when you are discussing with someone who is not very close to you. In the 19th century, when German literature was translated into English, du became Tau. When Friedrich and Jo call each other du, it means that they want to be close to one another. In the book it says that Jo thought Tau was a lovely syllable. It sounds that Gerwig is just making excuses to spread hate speech about a fictional character, and it doesn't have any base on reality. This is what Christine Doyle writes. When Jo terms Friedrich's request to use Tau in addressing him, quote, sentimental, while privately thinking it's lovely, he says, sentimental, yes, thank God. Weak Germans believe in sentiment and keep ourselves young with it. Your English, you, sounds so cold. Friedrich, in fact, retains his German accent throughout the March novels, occasionally dropping German words and phrases such as mein Son and Vaterland into his speech despite his much improved command of English. For example, in Little Woman, Friedrich says half, but then in Little Man and Jo's Boys, he says have. Like Friedrich's defense of religion, his sentimental language is significant in both cultural and literary context. Alcott seems here to be standing up for emotion in the face of a staid New England culture. Sorrows of Young Werther, novel that first skyrocketed Goethe into great fame, has been often used as an example of the over-sentimentality of the German Sturm und Drang movement. Louisa was heavily affected by the Sturm und Drang, and in her youth consumed and wrote these Stress and Thunder tales. Despite of being more realistic novel, Little Woman is written in sentimental language, and this applies to all of Louisa's novels, children's books and the adult books. Friedrich is sentimental, but so is Louisa May Alcott. Louisa's real-life love interest and possible lover, Henry David Thoreau, also used Tau in his love poems when addressing his loved one. Jo describes Friedrich to look like a regular German. He has brown hair and bushy beard, kind blue eyes, big hands and big feet, and he has kind tone in his voice. This description is similar to Friedrich Schiller's first impression on Goethe. His appearance greatly lessened the idea I had conceived from hearsay of his imposing and handsome person. He is of middle height and looks and walks stiff. His countenance is not open, but he has beaming eyes. The expression of his countenance is serious, at the same time that it is benevolent and kind. He has brown hair and appears older than I should say he really is. His voice exceedingly pleasing, and his conversation flowing lively and amusing. It is a pleasure to listen to him, and when he is in a happy mood, which he was on this occasion, he is fond of talking and takes an interest in what he says. Friedrich's looks and his somewhat stoic personality can also be traced back to Henry David Thoreau, but like Goethe, Henry as well opened up in company, especially when the conversation was lively and interesting. First thing Jo hears from Bear is his singing "Kennst du das Land?" Do you know the land? To himself. The opening line of Mignon's love song from Goethe's Wilhelm Meister. Here again is literary intertextuality of Wilhelm Meister in Little Woman. By having Bear sing Mignon's song to himself, Alcott not only draws a direct connection between Bear and Goethe, but also an emotional connection between herself and Goethe. Louisa points out that both Jo and Friedrich are familiar with Wilhelm Meister. In the chapter Surprises, Friedrich comes to court Jo, and Jo asks him to perform Mignon's song with her. Now we must finish with Mignon's song, for Mr. Bear sings that. You will sing with me? We'll go excellently well together, he asked. A pleasing fiction, by the way, for Jo had no more idea of music than a grasshopper, but she would have consented if he had proposed to sing a whole opera, and warbled away peacefully regardless of time and tune. It didn't much matter, for Mr. Bear sang like a true German, heartily and well, and Jo soon subsided into a subdued hum, that she might listen to the mellow voice that seemed to sing for her alone. nose to the land where the citron blooms used to be the professor's favorite line, for das Land meant Germany to him, but now he seemed to dwell with peculiar warmth and melody upon the words. There, oh, there might I with thee, oh my beloved, go. And one listener was so thrilled by the tender invitation that she longed to say she did know the land and would joyfully depart thither whenever he liked. How did Joe know that this was his favorite line? They must have had deep 101 discussions about Goethe. This is a quote from Little Woman fan Christina. Maybe she noticed how a certain gleam came across his eyes as he sang the line. Maybe his lips turn upward into a smile when the lyric comes up, no matter how many times he sings it. Or maybe it was because of the warmth in his voice as he spoke of his home that Joe recognized as she speaks of her home. But she notices all the little things of Fredrik, but had yet to have a reason why. But when she leaves New York and she is alone after Beth's death, she thinks of those little things and smiles to herself. When he comes to her home, she thinks about that line. Home, he is her home. He is home. There is another way to interpret this chapter. Minion's song is about departure and reuniting with your loved one in the afterlife. Louisa believed that in the next life she would meet her loved one again, and then she would get the life that she had wanted. Maybe this scene was written about Henry, same way as the umbrella chapter. Henry had the same Goethe's books as Louisa, and he was also a good singer, and when he would come to visit the Alcotts, they sometimes sang together. Quote from Megan Almknecht. Another parallel between Bear and Goethe is their philosophy, especially regarding the purposes of art and religion. Bear is very interested in Jo's writing, encourages her to read Shakespeare, and helps explain his work to her. Classic writers, such as Shakespeare, were very important to Goethe, who read Shakespeare and often wrote about and criticized him in letters to Schiller. As Jo reads Shakespeare, she not only begins to notice true, honest character more, but she also recognizes just how good Bear truly is. She discovers a live hero who interests her in spite of many human imperfections. Mr. Bear, in one of their conversations, had advised her to study simple, true and lovely characters whenever she would find them, as good training for a writer. Jo took him at his word, for she coolly turned round and studied him, and finds him to be good and benevolent. In this way, Bear's love of the simple, honest and pure mirrors Goethe's, who remained ever in touch with the reality of things as revealed to the sense, but never blind to an ideal interpretations. This is all in the text of Little Woman. Fredrik encourages Jo to become a genuine writer. I have never understood people who say that Fredrik prevents Jo from writing, when in the book he does the exact opposite. But the people who spread the type of false information are usually Jo and Laurie fans. Another quote from Megan. Bear is trying to help Jo to become a genuine writer, instead of one who caters to the whims of the crowd. This is something that Goethe would have done. He disliked superficiality in people and in art, and was through life frequently offended by the shallow pretensions, the false aims. He insists that poem must be suggested by real life and having herein a firm foundation. This is particularly important information. When Louisa was in her 20s, she wrote sensational stories to a New York magazine. Weekly Volcano in Little Woman is a caricature of this magazine. These stories are not Louisa's best stories, and in Little Woman she describes how Jo has mental health problems because she feels powerless in the hands of the editor, who wants her to write stories that have shock value, and when Jo looks for material, she begins to have anxiety attacks. This is all in the text. It has never been adapted, and that must affect to any anti-Fredrik statements people might have, because in the novel Fredrik comes to Jo's help when he sees how much she is struggling. When Louisa wrote these sensational stories, she was not very experienced with the darker side of life, and struggled with a lot of these themes that she was requested to write about. It makes sense that she looked up to her literal hero, Goethe, and take his advice that a good story should have a real-life foundation. And this is how Jo in Little Woman moves on from writing trash to write successful realism, thanks to Fredrik, and Louisa did the same, thanks to Goethe. There are times when Goethe's and Friedrich's values separate. One of these are their views on religion. Goethe's views on religion are often described as vague, whereas Friedrich in Little Woman is very religious. Louisa was a very spiritual person herself, and her religious views were rather eclectic, but the base of her beliefs were in her Protestant upbringing. In Little Woman, Jo and Friedrich attend a symposium. There Jo listens one of the young philosophers speaking about atheist worldview, and this makes Jo quite upset. Quote, "It dawned upon her gradually that the world was being picked to pieces and put together anew, and according to the talkers, on infinitely better principles than before, that religion was, in a fair way, to be reasoned into nothingness, and intellect was to be only God." Jo knew nothing about philosophy or metaphysics of any sort, but a curious excitement, half pleasurable, half painful, came over her as she listened with the sense of being turned adrift into a time and space, like a young balloon out on a holiday. He bore it as long as he could, but when he was appealed to for an opinion, he blazed up with honest indignation and defended religion with all the eloquence of truth, an eloquence which made his broken English musical and his plain face beautiful. He had a hard fight, for the wise man argued well, but he didn't know when he was beaten, and stood to his colors like a man. Somehow, as he talked, the word got right again. The old beliefs that had lasted so long seemed better than the new. God was not a blind force, and immortality was not a pretty fable, but a blessed fact. So felt as if she had solid ground under her feet again. And when Mr. Bear paused, out-talked, but not one whit convinced, Jo wanted to clap her hands and thank him. She did neither, but she remembered this scene, and gave the professor her heartiest respect, for she knew it cost him an effort to speak out then and there, because his conscience would not let him to be silent. She began to see that character is a better possession than money, rank, intellect or beauty, and to feel that if greatness is what a wise man has defined it to be, truth, reverence and goodwill, then her friend Friedrich Bear was not only good, but great. In this case, Friedrich is in fact much more closer to the American philosophers like Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, who Louisa had often heard giving speeches about religion. Despite the fact that the Transcendentalists adored German culture and writings, they were highly suspicious of German philosophers because they did not always share their religious views. I know quite a few Little Woman fans who absolutely love the symposium scene. It is their favorite Jo and Friedrich moment. She says that he was not only good, but great. Friedrich is no longer a crush for Jo. It becomes something a lot more serious. Jo remembered his passionate speech for the rest of her life. She even wants to clap when he stops talking. Friedrich, he managed to move something inside her. I have mentioned this in my articles before. One of the reasons why I always adore Jo and Friedrich love story and storyline is because it is one of the most realistic descriptions in literature how it actually feels like to fall in love to another person, and Louisa wrote from her experience. Jo was attracted to Friedrich from the moment she met him. There is a build-up in the novel how her crush and her curiosity towards him deepens. He was poor, yet always appeared to be giving something away. A stranger, yet everyone was his friend. No longer young, but as happy-hearted as a boy. Plain and odd, yet his face looked beautiful to many, and his oddities were freely forgiven for his sake. Jo often watched him, trying to discover the charm, and at last decided that it was benevolence which worked the miracle. If he had any sorrow, it sat with its head under its wing, and he turned only his sunny side to the world. This is what is said about Goethe's personality. Goethe was always an optimist, despite of the many setbacks he had during his life. He often wanted to uplift others and bring as much success to others as to himself. Goethe believed that creativity was a gift, but only way to true success was through hard work and resilience. Goethe was emotional and vulnerable, and yet he could be the light of the party. Sometimes he was generous to a fault, but always honest and loyal to those he cared about the most. I personally really liked the idea that Louisa gave Jo a husband and a partner that was inspired by Goethe. It makes a lot of sense that Fredrik, who helps Jo to reach the next stages of her writing career, was based on Louise's favorite writer, and that there are elements in Fredrik's personality we can trace to Goethe. Thank you for listening. To listen to the full episode, Jo marries Goethe. Link is in the description. You can listen Little Woman podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other major podcast platforms. You can follow me on Instagram at podcastinglittlewoman. Take care and make good choices. Bye.